Well, we kick off this morning taking a look at President Cyril Ramaphosa, the cattle auction dinner that had taken place at Palapala, and we're going across now to be joined by political analyst Lukhona Mnguni. Lukhona, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
A very good morning to you, Inayet. Today, good morning to your listeners.
Yes, never a dull moment in South African politics and with our president lately, because we've now learned that he is facing criticism after being spotted at the auction dinner in Palapala, whereas we've seen many pressing issues, and one of the biggest issues has been the announcement of the cabinet reshuffle that had not yet taken place.
No, absolutely. And I think it's not because, there was a date placed as to when the cabinet reshuffle would take place, but it's really just a president who appears absent when it comes to issues of national importance, as you say. Now, of course, some people might say we are being difficult on the president because on Monday, he had, in actual fact, chaired a special cabinet meeting that was looking into the regulations for the national state of disaster. But I think, when there are times like these, and of course he hosted his counterpart, President Museveni of Uganda. But now if you actually check and you see some of the attendees at the auction dinner in Palapala on Friday evening, you realize that some politicians from Uganda, at least one member of parliament was present, because we saw him post a photo of him with the president at Palapala. And then now it begins to, induce questions as to whether or not there's conflation of the president's private interests and his state duties, because it almost looks suspicious that, there would have been a state visit by President Museveni, and then on the Friday there's already an auction gala dinner at Palapala that has to do with Ankole and Boran cattle. And we know that President Museveni himself is an Ankole farmer, one of the biggest Ankole farmers in Uganda. So you've got questions that have to be asked about the president, because it seems as if he's becoming a little distracted, disinterested, and he's much more happier and passionate to spend time at his farms rather than on issues of national importance.
Well, exactly, and I think this begs the question when the president made that his speech at the SONA and right towards the end, where he questioned himself as to why he is in this job. Now, does this now clearly confirm as to where the president's priorities lie, Lukhona?
Well, I think that was a very bizarre moment as well in the State of the Nation address, wasn't it? Because everybody then asked, why would you question that? If you have a problem and you don't want to lead anymore, then you just have to vacate office. There are hundreds of thousands and millions of South Africans who do not have the ability to even question why they are in a job, because they are jobless. And it almost came across as insensitive. And I think the president is also just not sensitive to the moment he finds himself in. You would know that this is a president who was rumored to have wanted to resign in December when the former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo report came out to Parliament. This is a president who still has the dark cloud of Palapala hanging over him, and you would think that he would just have a sense of shame and try and not make Palapala events as public as this one was made, or not even host anything for some time until at least the public protector report is out and he feels that he is on the clear when it comes to this issue. But he seems to be moving ahead with a sense of insensitivity towards all of those issues, and one wonders whether or not the president really understands the importance of the office that he holds.
Exactly. In fact, this was the question I was going to raise to you as well, Lukhona, is, how sensitive is the president to the mood of the country at this point in time, to the mood of the people, to the mood of the masses, considering where we are, and yet his area of focus and Palapala is still looming over his head. And again, an event in Palapala. And many see this as an insult to the nation, Lukhona.
Well, there's just a grinding recurrence of terrible mistakes from the president. I mean, when he answered to our court papers on the Eskom saga, he effectively just turned to a narrow reading of the constitution and legislation to say that the national government is actually not duty bound to provide electricity to households. That's the duty of municipalities. I mean, that's just being insensitive and also a bit untruthful, because at the heart of the problems that we need addressed at Eskom is generation capacity of electricity. And there's only one shareholder representative at Eskom, that is the Minister of the Department of Public Enterprise. So you cannot then absent the national government from an obligation to provide electricity to households, because in the village where I come from, the local municipality does not reticulate electricity to households. We are direct Eskom customers, and therefore we are direct recipients or lack thereof of electricity that is under an entity that is solely safeguarded and governed by the national government. So beyond just being insensitive, I think you're facing a president now who's slowly, with each day, checking out on his duties, and it is providing a degree of problems, because then there's no certainty, there's no decisiveness in terms of the policy regime, the political will that must be threshed out to ensure that things are moving and are getting done, and also just to ensure that you've got a president whose full obsession is governing this country.
Exactly. And also, to what extent is this likely to impact on the ANC? Because he's had huge challenges with regards to the factionalism within the party. And then we had the elective conference that had taken place. The branches, putting their confidence, giving him a second lease of life, a second term of office. Now, clearly, if I was an ANC supporter, if I was an ANC branch member, I would be concerned about these developments as well, where he's not putting the country first. And here we've given him the vote of confidence, and he's not carrying out the mandate that he was supposed to do.
So it really does put the ANC in a fix, and I'll tell you why. That is because President Ramaphosa has a far higher brand credibility than the ANC itself. So he's almost like the ANC's trump card. But if their trump card starts losing ground in society in a serious way, starts being viewed as insensitive, as incompetent, as indecisive, as indifferent to the plight of people in society, that puts them in a very difficult position, because it then means President Ramaphosa stops being their selling ticket as he slowly gets consumed and subsumed into the broader narrative of the ANC, an ANC that is just seen as dodgy, corrupt, and tolerant of criminal elements, and has no appetite to really rid itself of these foreign tendencies, as they usually call them. Now, in an environment like that, you really have a weakened ANC, which, if nothing drastically changes to convince society that the ANC is turning its fortunes around, or that its leaders are becoming more serious about the tasks at hand that they have been given to govern this country and govern it properly, the ANC will go into 2024 a very weak species.
Yes, in fact, I've seen a tweet come through from Musi Maimani saying that the reason why many citizens are interested in the reshuffle is because things are falling apart. And we see daily reports of daylight murders. We lived through 8 hours or more of power blackouts. The classrooms of the country are falling apart. Hospital lines are too long. Now, this is just a sentiment from a politician. But again, the whole question about, are we being taken seriously, or is President Cyril Ramaphosa taking his job seriously? Is he respected? Is he respecting the masses? And this is a sentiment that is going to be featuring a lot more prevalent, considering that it's been a few weeks since the SONA. It's been a few weeks since he spoke about the most pressing issue in this country, the appointment of the Minister of Electricity. Apart from the cabinet reshuffle, this also hasn't happened.
No, absolutely. Again, it shows the degree of seriousness or lack thereof of the president, because he did say that it was urgent, it was an emergency. to finalize, regulations of the national state of disaster without that minister of electricity in place also just shows you that the continuous lack of synergy in thinking and planning within government, because you would want that minister of electricity to have input to some of those things. But of course, there are then still very serious issues, which I hope that this evening, as he appoints the minister of electricity, he will actually make us understand the demarcated powers that this minister will have. Because as you'll remember, in his State of the Nation address, he was very clear that the Minister of Public Enterprise will remain the shareholder representative at Eskom, will remain responsible for the restructuring of Eskom, will remain responsible for the implementation of the Just Energy Transition Program. Now, the latter, you would have thought that it would go to the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, because it's part of a broader framework on energy policy. And of course, now you've entered the Minister of COGTA, who's the one who declares the national state of disaster. So one of the things that the president really has to achieve today is to take us into his confidence. It's meaningless to appoint a minister of electricity but have no sense of what are the powers, how far-reaching are they, how long are they, and what conflict could they possibly cause? Because at some point last year we did see tension between ministers of mineral resources and public enterprise, because sometimes there's not a clear demarcation of powers, but you still want to get the same thing going and make sure that Eskom remains viable.
Well, Lukhona, let's leave it at that. Let's see what develops tonight, and I'm sure that we are still going to have a lot more interesting times,
Thank you very much
going forward. But thank you for your time this morning. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Lukhona Mnguni with us this morning. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be back.